Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for EventCamp, the digital session. We're not on the road right now. We're doing it all digitally. So thanks for joining us. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm the Director of Accounts for Tripleseat. I've been with the company for about 5 years now, and just a little bit of history. Before this, in my previous life, was an event director in New York City. So I am coming to you today from the sunny New York. And we've put together a great panelist today to speak with you about what's happening, what's going on now in 2021, now that things are really starting to reopen and events are starting to pick back up again. And we specifically wanted to talk to some friends that are West Coast based. So last month we did a session that was with some people based in the East Coast. And we really wanted to try to give some of our West Coasters in the States some love as well, and just figure out what's going on for them and do they have different perspectives. So they're gonna share some insights into what they're currently seeing, and then maybe some predictions for what they think is going to happen later this year and also going into next year. So just a couple quick housekeeping things. We're going to just have a roundtable discussion and chat for 30 to 45 minutes. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to use the Q&A box. And then we'll use the last 10 or 15 minutes to try to answer some questions that you have for the panelists. So without further ado, I would love to introduce our panelists today. We actually might have one more joining us. Shannon was having some technical difficulties, so we're still going to try to get her into the room. But until then, I would like to introduce, we're going to start with Jen.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. We're super excited to talk about what's going on the West Coast. I'm with Earl Enterprises. So right now we are working with venues that we own, such as Buca de Beppo. If you're familiar on the East Coast, anyone East Coast watching, Brio, Bravo. In Hollywood, we have 3 venues, Rock and Riley's, the Breakfast Club LA that's opening in the fall, and Warrior on Sunset Boulevard. So those are our venues, and we're super happy to be here and discuss and see what's going on.
Jen, I have a fun question for you.
Okay.
Like fun fact, but where are you most excited to travel to now that we're maybe moving and shaking again?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have a trip planned this year. We'll see what happens, but I'm honestly excited to travel out of my house. I mean, we are, West Coast. We had another lockdown not too long ago, and we still aren't really going out that much, which obviously we'll get into more. But yeah, I'm just excited to talk to people and see how it's going and just start living life again and getting out there anywhere. I'll go anywhere.
To the grocery store.
Yes. I'd like to go to the movies. Ooh, I'd like to go to the movies. There you
go. Katie, what's going on? Where are you? Tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Katie, and I'm also with Earl Enterprises. So we have roughly about 11 restaurant brands under our umbrella. So I specifically represent here in Los Angeles, Buca de Beppo, and then Seaside on the Pier here in Santa Monica. I've been with Buca for about 10 years, a little over 10 years. So I sell all of the banquet and catering events for groups of 20 or more. So yeah.
Nice. And where are you excited to travel to?
So
it can be a pipe dream anywhere.
So I did have a surprise trip for someone that I was planning in October of 2020. So we weren't obviously able to go anywhere. So I'm looking forward to going to Paris. That was the trip that we were planning. Ooh. So one day, I haven't like re-planned it or anything. I want to make sure that there's no limitations or restrictions when we go, but that's definitely going to be my next destination.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Ruzzo, tell us about yourself, and also where are you looking to travel to?
Sure. Thank you, Chris, and hi, Jen, and hi, Katie. Hopefully we'll see Shannon soon. My name is Ruzzo Martinelli. I run my own company called Keynote Management. I'm based in Los Angeles, currently working an event in Austin, Texas. I served as the Senior Director of Events and Partnerships for the Hollywood Radio TV Society, a nonprofit association where I produced about 40 to 50 events a year for them. Aside from that, I work festivals and some award shows, which I still do. Unfortunately, in LA, they're still closed. The McDowell Wine Festival I've done for 15 years had to be rescheduled for 2022. But the award show that I've been working for 11 years, Hollywood Music in Media Awards, which recently was a virtual event in January 27th, is coming back to Avalon. We secured the date for mid-November, so I'll be back for that event for sure. In the meantime, I expanded an office in Austin, Texas to do some more work, and I'm looking forward to travel and visit my dad and mom who retired in Spain, which I try to go see once a year. And unfortunately, it's been a year and a half since I missed them, so I missed them a lot. So as soon as things open up and I make a little money, since we haven't worked in about a year, I plan to visit them.
Nice.
Thank you.
Well, one thing that I really wanted to dive right into is when we were all chatting before, we were saying, it's so hard to even know, I'm in New York and I was trying to like Google what's going on in California. Like, what are their restrictions? What can they do? What can't they do? And I had such a challenging time even figuring out what's allowed and what's not. And I know we all were kind of talking about that. It's just a challenge. And even with just last week with the CDC recommending that basically for vaccinated people, it seems like the restrictions have really been lifted a lot, no mask mandates. So we know things are really changing as of the day or to the hour. Jen, I know that you had said you really had a great opportunity and found an organization that was really helping you figure out what was allowed and what wasn't. Do you want to share some of what you found out?
Yeah, sure. So I am really heavily involved with all of our chambers. So West Hollywood, Upland, everywhere across, anywhere we have venues. They've been really proactive in having calls with the LA County Health Department. And I've been really lucky to be involved in a lot of those calls. So it's nice because they were actually phone calls. It wasn't a Zoom call, but you're able to dial a certain number to ask a question, and then they'll announce you and you can kind of listen to all the answers. So it was really helpful to hear that, because it is confusing. Even when you read the guidelines, it's a little confusing as to how to understand it and how to ask, okay, does this mean I can have a party of 20 come in for dinner? That, you know what I mean? It's a little confusing. I think Katie can attest to that too. So where we're at right now, as far as the restaurants being 50% capacity, if you are seated indoors, you can only have 6 people to a table 6 feet apart. So I can have a party of 20 have dinner, but they have to be in separated tables. And I'll be honest, everyone I say that to is completely fine with it. So I haven't had any pushback on wanting a big long table or anything, that typically people would think they would have to come in with a large dinner party. And then if you're seated outdoors, you can have up to 8 people at a table at 6 feet apart. Now the households, before it was pretty harsh. Like you can only be from the same household. Now, if you're indoors, it's 3 households, and outdoors, I believe, is 8 households. So we're able to get those. We're not going crazy with a 50-person dinner or 60-person dinner quite yet over here, but we are able to get a little bit bigger groups now. They're absolutely happy sitting in separate tables. Some of them even say, we'll even sit in a separate room as long as we can just come to dinner. So I think that hasn't been too big of a deal. As far as larger groups, if you wanted me to assess that, is what the public health is saying, health department is saying, we can now have up to 400 people outdoors and 200 people indoors if they're fully vaccinated. Now, what they are saying is it's up to you, the venue, to figure out how you're going to find out who's vaccinated. And I'll be honest, I've had one person tell me, there's no way I'm going to show you all these people's cards. I mean, that's ridiculous. And then I've heard people say, I don't mind. It's kind of like checking my ID to see if I'm 21 to buy alcohol. Check my card to see if I'm vaccinated. So it's a little difficult. We're looking at a June 15th full open of California. So I'm hoping once we get past these next few weeks, nothing like that will have to happen. Okay, live camera. I see my cat coming this way on the desk, so I apologize. I'm like, stay back. I'm like, ah.
We love her.
So, and it's a thing. It's like, do you go to the restaurant and do you ask at the door to see everyone's card? How do you do that? And that's something where we actually kind of have to figure out just for the next few weeks and see how that works out. I haven't had to do it yet myself. Katie may be able to talk a little bit more about that and her experience too, but it is kind of tough. It's like they were saying it was the planner's job to check the cards. So if a planner called me as a venue, it was their job. Or who's responsible? That kind of thing has kind of been up in the air, and to people watching, if If you've heard any different, I'd love to hear it, but or how they're handling it, but they've been leaving it up to the venue. So we're navigating through and trying to figure it out, and we're getting there, we're getting
uncharted territory, right?
Yeah, of course.
I know. I think it's been really challenging for venues. I mean, honestly, even if you think about like the local target, it's really challenging for venues, whether they're an event space or retail or whatever. Do I now have to police people that are coming into my space, and how do I navigate those conversations? And it's just tricky. Katie, do you have any additional insight being on site, or even from your ops team, what's going on?
Right. So we haven't mandated the mask yet. So right now we're still kind of just, everybody has to wear a mask. And I think as well, when that does happen, we are going to have a little bit of adjustments. It is going to be very based on location. We have some of our restaurants that are located, like, for example, we have one in Universal City Walk. We're going to have to be following the guidelines of the park as well. So we're not just going to be able to come up with our own rules or regulations when it comes to that. We'll be able to kind of follow in their footsteps and see what they're doing and what they're implementing for everybody. But then, of course, the standalone restaurant locations, those may have a little bit more flexibility. They might be able to say, okay, you don't have to wear a mask and you can come in and show your vaccination card. So I think that'll just kind of depend on once that takes place and once that is implemented, which I believe should be June 15th for us as well. So but other than that, I mean, I feel like everybody knows wherever we go right now, we have to wear the masks and we have to carry around our vaccination card. So I think that everybody is going to be, for the most part, flexible and understanding what they have to do when they're going into the restaurants.
Yeah. Ruzzo, have you gotten any conversations or had conversations with any clients looking to book events or anything like that yet?
I have. Obviously, Los Angeles is its own, I hate to use this word, but animal. I've been established there for 40 years. All my clients were there. I was lucky enough to, I had to, as a necessity, to look elsewhere. And it's surprising because I've been with the Chamber of Commerce here in Austin, Texas, and seen how they do things in Texas and California. And it seems like it's a whole different planet. I have an event on June 10th. Masks are not required. They're, if you want to use them or not. The governor and the mayor fight all the time on their own regulations. But I became a compliance officer and got a certificate for COVID. So I tried to bring those tools and that information to every event. In LA, I think we had a issue with people got scared. We were first told that this would end in May or June, right, of last year. And then it prolonged. And we spent a lot of time. I understood the fence of both sides, the venue owner and producer and the client. So we postponed as much as we could. Some people need money back. But what it did is not only scared people that COVID would never leave, it scared people on how to get that money back and how to reposition it. So I had clients, like I've got one client that postponed their event from 2020, not just to 2021, to July of 2022. And the reason being, it was so difficult we had 15 different vendors. We had a national recording artist booked. So it was difficult to deal with all these people to make them whole again on something that wasn't his fault. So I don't know if that answered your question, but outside of COVID, there is those fears of regulations and contracts and things that you sign. I sided with the fact of treat your customers great, they'll return to you. If you hardball them, they're not going to return to you. And I was in another roundtable, I spoke about that a while back. And I encouraged my friends and families in the business and the industry, while we were all bleeding, of course, to work with our clients as much as possible so that they'll return and not scare them from booking again. Luckily, people are feeling more confident now. And there's wonderful event owners and venue people like Jen and Katie that are working with their clients. But I do encourage to try to make things as easy as possible and secure for the people, not only in COVID compliance, but in regulations as far as your contracts go.
It's really good insight. It's like the golden rule, right? Just do unto others. Yeah, you're totally right. But I know even from us as a company, it's challenging, just like you said, when everybody's bleeding money or they're worried about finances. You're just like, I'm a business too. We have to try to stay afloat. What do I do? I totally hear you. So I want to get to the $1 million question that I think everyone wants to know right now, which is, are you getting leads? Are inquiries back to what they were? Are bookings picking up? I think we all feel like they are, but are they? Katie, I'm curious. Go. Tell me.
Yes, they are definitely increasing. I would say within like the last month too, for California in itself, we've seen a great amount of success when it comes to the leads. They are definitely more so social gatherings, so weddings, any type of bridal event, baby showers, graduations. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, Shannon. You joined us.
So it's definitely
difficulties, but now she's here, everyone. Shannon, say hello. Hopefully she can hear me.
Hi, Shannon.
Maybe not. That's okay. I'm sorry, Katie. Continue.
So we haven't seen like a corporate jump yet. We've definitely been prospecting out to our previous clients and seeing, where they're at, what they're doing. And we've gotten a few different feedbacks from them. Some of them are saying, that they're going to be returning to office in the summer, like closer to July. And then
okay, fine.
Shannon, we can hear you. You're here. Shannon, I'm gonna have you intro yourself in just a second.
Okay, and then another handful of them are saying that they're going to push it towards September or even closer to the holiday season. November, December is when they'll be returning into office again. So I think when it comes to corporate, we have a little bit of time, but when it comes to anything that is social related, that's the business that's coming in right now, and we're very thrilled to have it.
Yeah, for sure. Jen, what about you? Are you guys also, I know you're part of the same corporate entity, but I know you operate some different restaurants.
Same. It hasn't gone crazy, but it's definitely, a lot more questions. People want to know, have a lot more questions about what we're doing. And so the call that's normally like, hey, I want to do this on this night. Great. Here you go. You're done, is more prolonged, which is fine because I feel like, I build a relationship with most of the people that I speak to anyway, is typically how I work, but it's nice to kind of just make them feel comfortable and talk it out with them. So it's a lot more questions, but definitely more social. A lot of corporate on our side, I'm sure as with most, are working from home, and most don't even plan on going back to an office. So I think we're going to see that trend absolutely be just a new thing. But so they're saying, oh my gosh, we'd love to do this, but we're doing everything online. We're still working from home. Hopefully, like Katie was mentioning, in the fall, then we'll be back in our offices. So we're kind of looking at that, but definitely on the social side, people are getting out there. It's a lot of anniversaries and birthdays and anything you can think of, a lot of do-overs, some 2020 do-overs for sure. Yeah.
You postponed, postponed your 40th birthday, and now you're coming back again. Shannon, you're coming in at the perfect time. Shannon, please introduce yourself. You're going to offer so much insight here. Please tell us about yourself and your business.
Well, I have to apologize. The funny thing is I couldn't get online because I didn't have enough speed on the internet. So I'm actually down in a silo that we turned into a bar loft. So what you see behind me is not fake. It's actually a grain silo that we turned into basically a bar loft. It's very cool. So I'm here from Idaho, and we've been doing events probably 15 years. And I would say it's been very, very different. We had over 500 people here last year. So it was very different because of Idaho. We have 25 acres. We did unique things for the pandemic to make sure people used masks to cover their faces with, to celebrate their wedding date. We only did it for really good friends, and we did not have any parties larger than 80. So that's kind of how I get to the 80 percentage, if you will, 80 people per event. We are, I would say, almost doubling the volume this year in this area because Idaho has different restrictions. So I think that this just complements this webinar in general is that it's so different in every location. You need to call every location.
Yeah, I totally hear you. So I want to kind of circle back to, Jen, you started to talk about this, and I'm really interested, especially from your perspective and maybe Ruzzo's as well. You mentioned corporate, everybody being remote. I know my company, we're all remote right now. And so I'm really curious, are corporations doing digital events? Are they doing virtual things? Are they asking you to do hybrid events that are maybe half in person, half, virtual? Or are they asking you to do anything where you ship meals or boxes of food or anything like that? I know I've heard of a lot of venues doing unique things like this, and I'm interested, your perspective.
I on my side don't get asked a lot to do things digitally with the type of venues we have. But, one thing that our brand did do is we did come out with an individually boxed lunch for deliveries. And that is a big deal for our Buka brand because we are known for family style dinner. You sit around and you eat out of the same plates and the bowls from the middle of the table. So what could a brand that's known for that do to make a change and get the business? And these individually boxed lunches have been so helpful and really great for the big box stores, the Targets, the Home Depots, the stores of that nature that are still working. Those stores and grocery stores and places that you are going to, those essential workers, which they are still having some small meetings. And those box lunches, when they hear about that, when you call them, they're like, wait, what? Buka does that? So it's been amazing. I'm even doing a big one today that's for a soccer team, a high school soccer team. There's 50 of them going out for the first time getting together since COVID hit, and they're doing the box lunch delivery at their location. So I think they're going to see a lot of those type of things, happen from venues. They're going to start to think, where can we change with what's happening? And I think Ruzzo could probably talk more to the hybrid because we aren't really running into that as of yet, and don't have venues that have that need. But there is a big need for something of that. And like I said, for our brand to come up with something like that, I think has been amazing and has really kept us really busy, and it's been really good.
Yeah, Ruzzo, are you getting any requests from clients who want to do virtual events?
Sure, absolutely. Virtual is still a big thing. I think what happened with COVID, I was already streaming my luncheons 15 years ago, before the easy access of the laptop streaming and Zooms. This was an encoder box. It was very complicated, very expensive, because we had people watching our luncheons in the West Coast and the East Coast with our corporate sponsors. However, I think COVID and everybody who's been working on these events, a lot of clients saw that they can still engage people for very little cost because there's no venue, there's no food and beverage that they have to spend or as much as they used to, and it's still engaging. However, I think there's also people who see the great need of live events, like myself. I'm still a believer of them, and so clients are still working in the virtual mode, as well as most of them are now trying to see how they can phase into a hybrid mode, and then some clients are actually doing live event with the capability for those that can't attend because they saw the reach that they can do across the nation and in Europe to be part of their events. And there's so many companies that have developed great software now that were live event companies that are now doing this. So we definitely make that available and offer. People are still asking for it. And I don't think it's going to go away, but I think it's going to work hand in hand with live events, from major concert festivals to conventions to even small, intimate parties. So hopefully that answered the question. I also saw someone having in our Q&A chat. I don't know if you saw that, Chris, too.
Yeah, sure. So that's interesting. We can bring that up. Have any of you made changes to your cancellations and force majeure clauses as a result of COVID? I'm sure everybody probably has, but Katie, can you talk about that?
Yes, we have. So typically what our cancellation policy is 48-hour notice, which is pretty lenient if you think about it when it comes to having a large group. But we implemented where if it was a COVID-related thing or anything along those lines, we would do a last-minute cancellation, even if it was the morning of the event. So we definitely made sure that our customers, that when they were booking an event, we let them know and reassured them that if something does happen, we're there for you, and we will cancel the event, and we won't have to charge you for anything because we do understand, like, with the circumstances and everything.
Yeah. Shannon, how about you? I'm really interested, since you're booking a lot of social events and weddings. I'm sure you've had to be flexible.
Yes, very flexible. In fact, we were not planning on doing any weddings last summer, but all 4 that we did do were basically people just begging to get married. They were like, please, 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 please. And many of them were not able to get any of their refunds back. And because they were friends, I gave them a break and let them come and get married here. And we just abided by the state and county guidelines. So we were flexible for certain.
Nice. Are you finding consumer hesitancy booking stuff now where they're worried? It's really interesting. I know I was just looking to book travel, and I'm so concerned now about like, what's the cancellation clause? Because now I know, I mean, things like this can happen. So even if I'm booking something a year from now, I'm definitely more conscious probably of that than I was before. Are you running into that with people who are maybe even booking for 2022? They're worried about what if this happened again, or...
Well, I think we go back to the state of Idaho. It is, we're pretty flexible, and I don't think that that's a concern. And I think that that's why we're so busy. So back to the corporate side, I've got people contacting me about special events for 50th birthdays, for wedding receptions, for, Wounded Warriors projects. It's all kinds of things. And we have a lot of space. So there's 25 acres. So there's a lot of room for people to be safe. And again, everyone here is abiding by the laws, but they're just thrilled to have someplace to go. Like Jen said, she wanted to get out of the house, right? I think everyone's excited.
That made me seem sad.
Everybody come to Idaho.
That's great. Ruzzo, I'm really interested, since you work with venues, because you're a planner that's working with venues, mm-hmm. Are you getting any pushback from venues? Are you having to push back with venues about their cancellation policies to be more flexible? Or are the people you work with just being flexible on their own?
So the good news about me is I've worked on both sides of the fence. So I try to work with both the venue owners and the venue directors, as well as my client. Obviously, I'm going to look for my client and protect my client as much as possible. But we make sure that we work together and understand the circumstances that we live in and try to put everything together as much as possible. And then if things have to change, we work together to make those changes that work for both of us. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm on the stronghold with there's certain things that we have to safeguard, and we have to see what we can postpone, but not everybody can postpone on the same weekend when you have to cancel 100, all these events in one month. But I'm always a big proponent of always moving the date and postponing it. I think venues, owners, and vendors themselves have to understand that the client will always be the one that loses the most, because they had to send invitations out, they had to do marketing, they had to spend all this research in promoting their event that they don't see behind the scenes. So it's always best to have the event and not have it. So we'll work every angle to change things, be compliant to make it happen, maybe change components to be more virtual, what have you. But I always try to work with not just the venue owners, vendors, because obviously there's a million people that's involved, whether it's a flower company, whether it's the act, the artist, the video folks, the lighting folks, to be flexible as possible during these circumstances. But I think we're reaching more normalized situations. So I think we'll be back to more normal capacities and working together as we did prior to COVID.
Great.
We're just going to be working smarter, that's all.
Yeah, totally. And the word of the year, or maybe the word of the decade is going to be flexible, right? We all just have to be flexible. I want to pivot a little bit. I want to ask about what are you doing right now to promote your business? So I'd love to know some new ideas that you guys are doing right now to try to draw in new business, maybe get back clients that have, maybe gone away. I know it's been really interesting that there have been a ton of job changes and furloughs and interesting things happening. So I know, even from my perspective, a lot of the contacts that I knew at a certain place are now gone. And so I'm trying to find new people to reach out to and create new relationships. So Jen, I would love to hear from you. What are you guys doing right now to promote new relationships and try to book new business? Our company's really big on prospecting, day in, day out. You're always going to find new people. And I get what you're saying. I've called so many of my old clients and places to be like, hey, are you still there? And you're like, and you get some yeses, you get some nos, you make some new relationships. And I think that's kind of how it's always been, even pre-COVID. So I just feel like as people have moved, though, as an event person, and pretty much everyone on the panel can agree, people follow you. So no matter where people have gone, I've been getting calls and I'm like, oh, that's where you are now. Because, yeah, people have been furloughed and left jobs. And
and done things like that. But, you know, prospecting is a big part of events. So it's getting on the phone, it's calling those companies and see who's there and make the new relationship. And that's something in our business we can always do, and that never changes. But for myself, doing events in Hollywood for, almost 20 years, I have a lot of client base in Hollywood. So people tend to stay in their little bubble. Even if someone has changed companies, they're still reachable and you can still find them. And, you know, I'm big on networking. I had my own networking event for years, and I miss that so much. Just meeting people face to face and saying, hey, what can my business do for you? Let's be friends and share business. And that's what my networking event was really about. So it has been a challenge to make the extra step and the more calls and to find maybe where people have gone or to meet the new people. But I think, you know, prospecting is always good for all types of business, and making the calls and just reaching out and saying, hey, we're here. You know, my first couple of weeks back to work, I myself was put on furlough. I was calling and just saying, hey, I'm back. I just want to say hi, because people just wanted to hear other people call them and say hello. So even if it wasn't the right person, the way you handle the conversation, you know, is how you can definitely get your business back and find new ways of doing that nowadays. You know, it's, I honestly, I can honestly tell you, most of my calls, I was like, my name's Jen. I just want to say hi. Just want to say hi. These are my venues. And they're like, oh, well, okay, let's talk some more, you know, and it grows into a bigger conversation. So I don't think that's been too challenging for me. I can let the rest of the panel talk about it, but I think there's always right now people that want to talk too. So.
Jen, I'm really curious, just because Leah asked in the chat, have you heard any grumblings about when people, is anybody thinking about doing networking events? Have you heard anything in the area?
Who are you asking? I'm sorry, Chris.
Yeah, you, I'm sorry.
Oh, me. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, what? Yeah. No, I haven't had a lot of people saying, hey, when are we doing it next, to answer a question. It is a lot of, when it comes back, I'm going to call you. Ready. So I actually do keep a side list of everyone that we've talked about that with. And because everyone really wants to do it. Like, when can I go to a networking event? I know there's an area where we have a venue. It's a little further away from us, but their Chamber of Commerce had their first in-person networking event this week. They did a golfing tournament. They had some networking, and they were so excited to do it. I'm excited to hear what their turnout was. It actually happened yesterday. But it's slowly coming back. Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting. First chamber mixer that's available to go to, I'm going. You know, I think Katie can say the same. So it's not that we can't do it right now. Like I said, if you take that extra step, if you're vaccinated, come to this event, then, you know, we can have it. There's even some local bars in my neighborhood that are a members only bar now. If you show your vaccination card, you can come in. Otherwise, you can't. So I think you're going to start to see that trend too. A little side note. But yeah, I hope it comes back soon. I honestly, Chris and everybody, June 15th, we could go from 10 to 500 like that. Yeah. So that day is like, you know, like D-Day, we're just waiting. So for us in California, that date is really going to tell everything of what we're going to do next.
Yeah. Shannon, I'm curious for you. Are you doing anything right now to promote events, or do you have so many backlogged weddings that you're trying to move dates, and like, do you even have time to prospect, or you're good?
Well, that was what I was going to lead into is you know, one of the things that I've realized is that I absolutely cannot do this alone. And I think that the value of planners and people working together, from good catering companies to wedding coordinators to day of coordinators to people negotiating what's going to happen with the food if there is an incident. I think that the efficiency level has gone to the next level, as it should, because so many people do things halfway. And in my experience, I have found that I have the same conversation over and over again, because I always say I'm your non-crazy aunt, right? I'm the one that's going to be like, okay, like, how about this side of the family? And how about that side of the family? What do we need to take into consideration? You know, all these things that are part of the wedding, very special. But we want to make sure we've got all of our bases covered. And I can't do those kind of things without great networking, great partners, great, you know, planners. And the key thing too is that I like to ask them for advice. So what do? I want to be on their team. And as a venue owner, I want to support them and give them the power and have them say, Shannon, I'm not comfortable with this. And I say, okay, I got you. I like to be a support team. And I can say for me, what I need to do the most is to take seriously the social networking and the social media. I don't do it. It's all word of mouth. And what happens is that once it starts to get out there, I go, this is too much. Because I have a corporate job, you know, Monday through Friday also. So I look for help and ask for help. And I like to have people that want to have a good time, but do a really, really good job.
Great. That's super interesting and a great perspective. I want to move a little bit. I want to talk about money a little bit. So I'm really interested to know, and we're gonna hear from Ruzzo first, because I want to hear a planner's perspective, and then I want to hear the venue's perspective. So I'm really curious to know food and beverage minimums right now. Are you know, when you're working to trying to book events or rental fees, could be either one, you know, are venues quoting you the same traditional venue fees and F&B minimums that they used to? Are you finding additional flexibility? I'm really curious to know how flexible people are being right now and if they can be.
So interesting enough, I have a very great perspective in having worked most of my life in Los Angeles by doing some events even in New York, what have you, but primarily in Los Angeles. And now that I've based my second office in Austin. Actually, I'm thinking this is going to be my first office, and LA will be my second office because Austin's really working out well for me. Seeing that perspective, I feel like Austin is about 6 months ahead of where LA is at. They've fully opened up. They're doing 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 seater events. Pretty much COVID has gone away over here in their eyes and their perspective. It's up to venues and up to private events to do the compliance that they want to do. They're not being regulated whatsoever. That being said, we're not seeing any major instances of rises. In fact, Austin just announced the first time in a week where they didn't have any deaths or major rises in COVID. But going back to your question, sorry, I just want to have that little tidbit, is that business is booming, okay? This is the problem I'm having. It took me weeks and weeks. I'm trying to spend like $100,000 on a golf tournament and a gala combined at one resort, right? It took me weeks to find people that would see me. And when I went there, the person that was a director of events that was trying to look for it to show me the space was selling golf balls at the golf shop because they are understaffed. People at the Sheraton, when I went to the Sheraton downtown in the capital of Austin, was helping hotel guests check in because they're understaffed. She said she once had 7 people, now it's her. So I'm running into that. People are just getting back into business. I'm sure California, Los Angeles, I already know it's going through the same thing, so I'm making phone calls. Numbers that were disconnected haven't been connected back. You know, reach this department for 2, 3, 4, they're not working. But they're getting slammed with events, and they're being booked all the way through this quarter, at least in Austin. I'm sure LA is going to happen the same thing. That being said, when events go up, prices go up. So I'm getting hit with prices pre-COVID, or my client is, and it is what it is. You know, the only thing that's ever brought down prices is a recession, because then people aren't spending money and the venues have to lower their prices. And everybody knows that. So I'm not giving information that's not out there, right? But right now, people want to get back to events. They're not giving any special deals. They're obviously working with the people they've known in the past and kind of honoring some of those prices I've seen, but food and beverage minimums are back to where they were at pre-COVID days when things were just as healthy as they were.
Yeah, I mean, it's all demand, right?
It's all demand. It's all based on demand. And the thing is, too, is that they're having to reposition clients that they've had for years from 2020 to 2021 to 2022. And then because I work very closely with clients that want to book major artists at the end of their events, you know, with the agencies, they're booking all their tours from like a year ago into 2022 and beyond. So it's been so difficult to put all those elements together into one date. So yeah, prices are going up. People get ready to spend some money.
Shannon, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I did want to say, to kind of piggyback on that, was that what I have found is that people are really trying to tighten up their budget as far as the weddings are concerned. I mean, everyone has struggled, and that's including our vendors, right? Our whoever our DJs are and our catering companies. But I think that instead of making it look like everyone's charging more. I think there's less ambiguity in the cost for each of the services that they're providing. For instance, if it's going to be a $25 minimum for the meal, then it's going to be $25, not $28.99, and it's going to double in cost at the end, right? So I think that everyone's just kind of tightening things up a bit with the budgets that I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think it's super challenging. I think that COVID really pointed out for a lot of the hospitality industry that we were operating on really thin margins. And, I think that people realized that maybe in order to make things work, and that goes all the way to even like maybe server and staff wages, and, there's problems happening there with minimum wage. And I think we're really realizing that, maybe venues are going to need to start charging more. It's maybe just going to cost you more to go out to eat or to rent a venue, or
because they struggled the most. I mean, it's a huge impact on the whole country. And for all of us, I think that the least I can do is make sure that the people that are coming to my property, I'm taking care of them and they're being compensated appropriately. Like, I'm a venue owner that says, did you get an appropriate tip? I'm just double checking, because if you didn't, I'm going to get that rectified, because I want them to want to come back.
Shannon, I wish you were my boss about 15 years ago. When I was a server.
You, I'm old enough to be.
Katie, I'm really interested in your perspective. Are you guys, can you have additional flexibility with spending minimums right now? What's going on your side, on the venue side?
So on our end, we have not increased our prices at all. They haven't decreased or increased. They've stayed the same prior to the pandemic. So our food and beverage minimums are still pretty steady at what they were before. And I think people are, for the most part, the people that are familiar with our menus and with our pricing and whatnot, they're the ones that are coming to book with us. I haven't really had any issues with people trying to negotiate with pricing or anything like that so far. Maybe it'll happen once more things are open, and maybe other venues are going to be offering different rates. But other than that, we've been pretty steady with our pricing throughout the pandemic. So
nice. All right. I want to ask you, I think that one thing that everyone has found really interesting during this through COVID is what were some unique ideas that came out, like events that you saw happen where people did unique ideas. I'm thinking I can think of the BuzzFeed articles where the people at the Mexican restaurant are wearing the huge sombreros that are 3 feet on each side. Or I know that you guys have all kind of shared some things that you saw or unique trends. Shannon, can you tell us, have you had any weddings do things that are really unique and interesting?
Well, just the masks, where they actually had masks with the wedding date, and the bride and groom's date they're celebrating. That was pretty unique. Everyone was, we did kind of do special services for some of the more mature audience to make sure that they were kept away and, not subject to more risk. I think there was just a lot of respect that we paid forward for people's concerns, because it can sometimes be a political topic. We didn't want to make it a political topic. We just wanted to make it, good healthcare and respectful.
Yeah.
So
totally.
we went that route.
Jen, how about you? Have you seen anything interesting?
I did a lot of chamber things online, and just the different platforms, even like the one we're using today that I wasn't aware of. That was fun. Katie and I were involved in a lot of ones where you can click at a table and you sit at the table and you get to see everyone at the table like this. So instead of actually going up and sitting at the table, you're there online. That was really fun. Me personally, July birthday last year, my friend showed up in big blow up pig costumes that they got on Amazon with, they had fans in them. So they had their masks on and they were completely covered, out to here. I just had to share that because they were like, we're being COVID compliant at this party of 7 people in these giant pig costumes. So if you want to know something super unique, that was the most unique thing I saw last year. But yeah, the platforms of how they're getting people together, you have to make it fun and you have to make it interesting, because all I was hearing was on another Zoom call. Oh, okay. I was hearing that from a lot of business people. So if you can just do that one little thing, to switch it up a bit, then I think there's some promising Zoom calls still waiting.
Yeah, I think if we all had to do one more Zoom happy hour, it was just going to be the end.
Exactly.
Ruzzo, have you had any clients, request anything interesting or out there, or have you seen anything?
Yeah, the couple things. I honestly did not work very much last year, like a lot of people did. Obviously, we went a lot of virtual stuff, but I did do a couple drive-through events. And after not fumbling, but trying to figure out what we can do, what we did, the best thing to do, instead of having people waiting in line, we did activations all the way across. So every like 10 feet you would pull up, there was a different activation and they would get something, and we were all COVID compliant with handing, using these, I forget what they're called, these hooks that can deliver the bags, and they would have something in them that was different, or a sponsor would be able to give them some information. That was about as creative that I was involved in. Unfortunately, I only really had 2 events last year, and the rest were virtual. Obviously, there was a lot of things that we saw online, like the Flaming Lips did that bubble concert. I'm sure people heard about that, where everybody was in a giant bubble and the artists were in a giant bubble. So I thought that was cool. I did work with some concert people where they created, box sets and the drive-in stuff, but unfortunately for the venue and for the artists, it wasn't, well, you saw that they canceled a lot of those concerts and the drive-ins. It was just not feasible. You need hundreds of people, not 50 cars, to make that a success for everybody. So we learned that didn't work, and that's about it. I wish I had more creative stuff to say, but unfortunately, we were just running for the hills, kind of.
Go ahead, Shannon.
We had the hand sanitizers, and of course, but they were really, really cute ones, and they smelled good. And we also had spritzer bottles. Instead of the ones that you're like choke on. So we had some spritzer bottles and baskets with of course the sanitizer in it. So that was pretty cool.
Nice. All right, I want to remind everybody, we're getting close to the end. So if anybody has questions, go ahead and type them in the Q&A box. And I have one more question that I'm going to ask of everybody, and then we'll dive in to see if the audience has any questions. So my last question is, I'm curious, does anybody have predictions about how they think the rest of this year is going to wrap up? And also any trends that you think might carry on through to 2022 as well? So Katie, I'm going to start with you. Is there anything interesting you think? Any trends, any prediction for the rest of the year?
I mean, I think the rest of the year, I'm hopeful that it'll increase and that we'll have a good finish off. I think it'll be really great if, corporate companies kind of decide, okay, let's do the last hurrah and let's celebrate our employees. We can all get together again. So that's definitely like something that I'm hoping for. And I think we all can. And then definitely, early next year, I think that we'll have a great refresh. I think after this year, hopefully we'll be refreshed and we'll be ready to go full force for 2022.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have all read the article about the Roaring 20s. They're saying they're hoping that after this is over, it's going to be the Roaring 20s again. And, after Prohibition and everybody was out spending all their, extra money and all that. So yeah, fingers crossed. Mm-hmm. Shannon, how about you? Any predictions or just what you think is how 2021 is going to wrap up?
Yeah, a couple things. I think that everybody's going to come out really looking for a great party. I think that they are going to be expecting more of the events and from what is provided at an event. I think that people started to take them for granted. And I'm just saying, just a quick get together, a happy hour and appetizers, no matter where you were, they're going to want more. And I think that everyone's been sitting around long enough that those of us in this industry are ready to give them more. And I think they want an experience and they want a memory. So I think it's going to work out for all of us to our advantage. And I think that we all have a responsibility to give that to our clients and our customers.
Shannon, I'm reading between the lines that you're saying we're going to see a lot more Instagram-worthy moments.
Yes. And I'm going to step up my game. You wait.
All right.
So much better.
Jen, how about you?
That's a tough one to follow. Then my dog's barking. Sorry. Shannon, that was great. Like I would agree. I think the one thing that's going to continue is masks. I know for us in California, they're not taking the mask mandate away, and I'm fine with it. I haven't had a sniffle in a year and a half, so I'm okay with it. But yeah, like Shannon said, I couldn't have said it better. Actually, they just are going to expect more because they haven't had anything in so long. And I feel the same way if I was on the other side of it and planning something. I'd say just like give them everything you got, and everyone's just going to be thankful for you to be there and to help them through redoing some major celebrations that they missed last year, and we're here to make it special. So that's all we can do, really, is do our best at our job and make sure they have a great memory. I mean, that's what my job is, making memories for people. That's the best part of my job. So I want to make sure I'm doing that full force, as if I did pre-COVID as well. I'm hoping that I did, but definitely great answer, Shannon. I don't know. What Shannon said. Ditto.
Ditto. Jen, wait, I have another question for you, especially because family style dinners are a big thing, especially for your events and for a lot of event planners. Do you think, what about family style dinners? Do you think they're still around? Do you think there's going to be a switch to just do everybody has their own plated? What do you think?
Well, we're still doing it. So they're still around. So we are still doing it. Some of our other brands also, they offer plated versus family style, but they've always done that too. So that, like Katie even had said earlier, we haven't changed prices. We haven't changed our menus. They've been that way. I think something we won't see come back anytime soon is a buffet. I don't know if anyone agrees. I don't really see that coming back quickly. I think it will. I just think that'll be more of a 2022 thing. Yeah. But family style, we're open. We're doing it, and we're busy. So bukas are busy. So it's good.
To back up that buffet style up here, we have had, if what was a buffet style, everybody, it was served. All the catering companies.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Yes. Brought it and it was served, and nobody was digging in with their finger.
Which is probably just better for everybody all around, right? Maybe that's just a thing that doesn't need to come back.
It should never come back. That's what I'm saying. It should never come back. It should always be served if it's a buffet. I believe that.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Shannon. Ruzzo, how about you?
Yes, that was a great question, Chris. It's so funny when you asked that question. I got this text, and I'll read it to you because it perfectly answers your question. He said, "Hey, Ruzzo, she's an events director for Parks and Recs. So all these events that I'm doing, the small ones, where the board of directors just announced that they want a full-blown festival. I now have 6 weeks to pull off 3 great bands. I know you know a lot of artists. Please help." So that answers your question. People the board of directors said, no, we're going full-blown festival now. And that's what's happening. That's the trend. Not only at companies, Parks and Recs, people that do community events for their community are wanting to do full-blown festivals again. But the average Joe, they're just waiting for something to pop up on their Instagram or their feed that says, book, come to this event, and they're booking it. If you read recently, there was an article on the news and on print as well, where airlines, obviously, get your tickets now because they're going up really high because people are just booking anything. Flights open in New York, flights open to Paris, or flights open to Caribbean, and they're just booking it. They just want to go. When they interviewed people like, where do you want to go next? They're like, I don't care, anywhere. And I think that's how it is with events. They want to go, and they want to go to events. They want to go to a concert. They want to go to a party. They want to go and obviously celebrate memorable moments in their life, which is what we all do, which is one of the reasons why I got involved and what I love to do. But yeah, I mean, I just got this text and I said, oh, I'm at this roundtable, which you were supposed to watch. But she's working. And I'll get back to you as soon as possible because, yay to be getting these texts again. It's been a 1.5 years since I haven't seen stuff like that fly by.
Yeah, there you go, everyone. You heard it here first, straight from Ruzzo's mouth. I think we all have to buckle in because Q4, I bet you, is going to be crazy.
And we all need it.
Yeah, and we all need it. It's going to be a big revitalization. And well, it doesn't look like we actually have any questions. You all were just so engaging and answered everything that nobody had any questions. So I really want to thank all of you for joining me today. This has truly been a pleasure. And I look forward to speaking with all of you again. Maybe we can do this again and we can do it in January and talk about what an awesome year we had.
We'd love to do that. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. I hope you all have a great summer and profitable rest of the year.
This will be better than the Friends reunion.
Yes.
Thanks for letting me be
awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Right, thank you, Jen. Everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Chris.
Bye.